Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast for a real statistics professor.
And the Abbott to his Costello, Jake.
Gives you sports betting tips. I am Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, and this episode covers today's best college basketball bets. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model that predicts what the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C pick for each of today's games, is available in the Google Sheet that is linked in the show's description. Picks that get an A are the ones I love, picks that get a B are the ones I like, and picks that get a C are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say the model will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, yesterday, another great day for you. You're turning this into you can be profitable every day little run here, which is nice. 5-1 yesterday after a 6-1 Tuesday. We're just have to start calling this picks with Jake, right?
Yeah, I feel like I got this the NBA Jam announcer guy going. He's heating up.
Yeah, exactly.
See if I can pull it through and get on fire here.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you got the head-to-head last night with the Marquette Villanova game, which, like I said, I hated the pick of Villanova. At some point, I'm just got to do a manual adjustment. Just be like, tell the model, just pick Marquette every time. Doesn't matter what the numbers. We're picking Marquette. You know what I mean?
They are just playing out of their mind, and I mean, there was a big swing play there when I can't remember the guy from Villanova where he hit the three and then got a technical and just wiped away all their progress in one sentence that he yelled at the bench. So that was kind of fun to watch, like just watching the whole game swing on one play.
Yeah. Before we get to today's slate reminder, please like and subscribe, follow, and rate. We appreciate all of those things. They help us out greatly. Drop a comment if you're on YouTube. We love those. We try to respond to as many as we can. Also, don't forget the live show Saturday, YouTube at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. We'll do our usual show, and we'll answer any questions you have about the 100-plus games on the slate. Jake, today there are a lot of games. There aren't a lot of great matchups necessarily. But, as we often talk about, right, you don't have to watch them to make the money. There's a lot of good lines that are good games we can profit off of, even if there's only a couple that you really want to tune into. We're going to start off with the game of the night, 7 p.m. UCLA at Arizona, a rematch from just a couple of weeks ago. I went under last time. I'm going under again. It was an easy under. I don't see any reason why this game plays out any differently with regards to the pace and the defense. Obviously, I don't think that UCLA is going to go and dominate quite like they did last time with Arizona being a 7-point favorite, but the model thinks the total should be 144.5. They only scored 134 last time. I'm taking under 147 as a B pick to get us going off right here with the game of the night. Jake, what's your pick?
Yeah, I'm actually going to ride this Arizona team. I know they came back and bit me last time. This UCLA team is much improved than what I thought at the beginning of the year, but I don't think Arizona has another terrible shooting night like they did last time. They shot 30 from the floor, 25 from three, and 54 from the free throw line. That's just those aren't anywhere near their averages. So that's more of a fluke kind of game. And two of their starters didn't score, and one of their better scorers went 0 for 12 from the floor and 0 for 9 from three. So I don't think that's repeatable. I mean, of course it's actually repeatable, but I don't think that actually happens.
Right. Like we always talk about, right? Like in any one game, anything can happen, but we're trying to say in general what we think. If we play this game 10 times, that only happens like one of the 10, not a lot, right?
Yeah. It seems much more likely. They're a much better offensive team than they showed. They're a little bit underranked defensively, and they shoot.
I think a lot underranked. Yeah.
They shoot their free throws around 73%, not the 54 they hit in the previous matchup. I mean, UCLA's dealing with some injury issues. Could be the biggest thing. I believe Juicing cleared the protocols, which is big, but we don't know how COVID hit him and all that. So he could have legs or he could not. I know Clark has been called out again for the concussion type thing he's got going on, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. is questionable. He played 7 minutes in their last game and got hurt and didn't come back, and it didn't look great on his ankle. So he's up in the air, and I don't think he's definitely not playing at 100% if he's back. So I think that's a big difference in this game, and one of the reasons Arizona covers this pretty easily.
Yeah, and you talk about from that last game too. We think Arizona. I think a little bit of regression to the mean for both sides, right? We don't think that UCLA will hit as many shots as they did in that game, bring them down a little bit. Arizona will hit a few more shots, bring them up. So, like I said, I expect the points to be in the similar nature, but a little bit of a different distribution there than last time. UCLA might find it hard to score on the road there. So Jake likes Arizona laying the 7. I like the under 147. Jake, I think the low key, really good game of the night here, Seattle at Grand Canyon. This is a big battle for the WAC right here. Two of the top teams. Seattle, I believe, is in first place, but they're a 5-point underdog at a really good Grand Canyon team with a total of 137 and a half. I'm taking the under there as well for a B pick. The model thinks it should only be 133 and a half. I expect the teams to be careful with their possessions, be a little more calculated. I think the other thing of note that Seattle has been about 1 point on average above my numbers, Grand Canyon about 1 point per game below with regard to the totals. What that means is my numbers are pegging their totals pretty well, and sometimes those numbers get a little bit out of hand because the totals can go really high, really low. But I've been pegging these two teams pretty well, so I feel pretty confident my number here at 133 and a half. Again, as we always talk about, with one game, anything can happen. There could be fouls, overtime, whatever. So there's no bet the bank type situation. I'm just saying, on aggregate, my models hit these teams pretty well. And I think this total is a little too high. So I'm taking under 137 and a half. Jake, which side are you taking in the big WAC game of the night?
I'm on Grand Canyon in this wacky game, but
Hey, yo.
I like so Grand Canyon's been struggling recently, but it's on this road trip. I think coming home resets them, gets them back to the norm, getting them back to playing their good defense, and letting some of the lesser offensive players sleep in their own bed, and be a little more comfortable going out to the game. And then with Seattle traveling, I mean, Seattle's a good team, two good defensive teams. I don't think they have enough offense to uh, keep up with this Grand Canyon team at home.
All right, yep, that makes sense. Another game out west, one that you may not be as interested in tuning into, but both Jake and I have a good edge here that we like. Cal Poly at Cal State Fullerton. Fullerton is a 12-point favorite, total of 130 on that game. The model thinks it should be Fullerton by 14.2, so it's a B pick for me at 12. If the number drops, that would jump to an A pick. So if you're out there and this number has dropped any, I like it even more. But again, I think Cal State Fullerton by more than 14 on this one. Jake, Cal Poly is just really bad on the road. I don't really think they can hang in there at all with this Fullerton team. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like this Cal Fullerton team. They're probably going. They're getting an automatic bid in all likelihood from this conference. So you might want to watch it just from a standpoint of knowing who they are by the time the tournament comes around. But they are 4-1 as a home favorite. They've won 8 of their last 9, and the Tennessee transfer EJ Anoseki is absolutely killing it out there. He's the best player that they have. He'll be the best player on the floor tonight. He's averaging 17 points a game, leading the team in points, rebounds, and blocks for an undersized big guy. And if you watched him at all at Tennessee, the guy can absolutely rebound for an undersized big guy. And I think he is too much by himself for this Cal Poly team, let alone anybody else they put around him.
Yep, that makes sense. I think they get an easy victory there. And then the last game here before we get to our exclusive pod content, those buzzer beaters, San Francisco at BYU. A big game here to determine seeding in the West Coast Conference tournament. San Francisco at BYU. BYU on a little bit of a skid lately here. Still a 1.5-point home favorite. Jake, I have faded BYU a lot this year. I was fading them early on, and that's been pretty profitable. But I think the number's gone too far in this one. The model makes this BYU by almost 4. And I just think that it's a little bit of an overreaction to how poorly BYU's played, but I expect them to come out focused tonight and get a win at home against San Francisco. What's your pick?
Yeah, I'm with you on BYU. I think both these teams have been struggling this year. They're not meeting the expectations that was kind of put upon them. And this real last stretch, especially for BYU, but for San Francisco, both teams have been struggling. With BYU losing on the road with I think it's Pacific and Pepperdine.
A bad Pacific team, yeah.
They shouldn't like are unexcusable losses. But I think coming home, gets some reset, like back to the normal. Um, they'll need a big game out of Barcelo tonight to cover this. But I think San Francisco just doesn't have it. I don't know where all this respect for them is coming this year. They're not upsetting teams. They're not like beating teams that they shouldn't at all. They win what they're supposed to and lose who they're supposed to. They're just very
Yep. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And then that leads us to our buzzer beaters here. The A plus play of the day. I've got 6 p.m. Central Time, Central Michigan, -2.5 versus Western Michigan. As we often remind you, don't have to watch them to make the monies. These teams are both very bad, but I expect Central Michigan at home to get a win. Just have to do it by more than 2. The best B side, we've got a little late afternoon delight for you here. It's a 4 p.m. Central tip. I've got Eastern Kentucky -4 versus Kennesaw State as the best B side. I think Eastern Kentucky can go out and get an easy win there. Every dog has its day at 6 p.m. Central. I'm taking Detroit on the money line +160 at Wright State. The model is 4-1 on A or B picks of Detroit, and Wright State's been a little disappointing this year. I've got a plug your nose and play them anyway game of Portland +13.5 versus St. Mary's. I've liked Portland all year. I think they're a little underrated. I think at home they can at least keep this respectable and not get run out of their own building against a St. Mary's team that is getting a little too much respect for their name and is not quite as good as some of those St. Mary's teams in the past. That's a B play for me on the plug your nose and play anyway game. And then a true afternoon delight game here. Tennessee Tech at Morehead State. I'm going under 136. That was the official pick I locked in. It's already gone up a couple points, so I just like that even more. I just don't see a lot of scoring here in this afternoon game. So I like it to be a little bit of a boring game for us for my afternoon delight pick. Jake, what are your buzzer beaters?
I'm on 2 road favorites today. I like Murray State to cover against the really bad Austin P team. Tevin Brown and KJ Williams will be way too much for this Austin P team. And then I love Liberty. Their offense is incredible. Darius McGee is one of the best players in the nation, and Bellarmine's defense ranks 333rd. So I think the offense alone is just enough to get them over that 2.5, 3 number that they need.
Yep. So we've got double afternoon delight action for you here on the pod. Jake taking the Liberty, me taking the under in the Tennessee Tech Morehead State game, and then again that late afternoon delight. So we've got a lot of basketball here this afternoon for you. Hopefully we can make some money on those games, and that's all we've got for you today. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Remember to check out that Google Sheet for all picks and totals on every game. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button. We'll get you a new episode every weekday of the college basketball season and that live Q&A episode on Saturdays. We will see you tomorrow. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.